This is File 054. I'm opening it tonight from a sealed cabinet marked Special Maritime Anomalies. Inside is a compilation prepared by Lieutenant Commander Henry Sloan, United States Navy Intelligence. It details 10 incidents drawn from declassified sonar logs, covert mission transcripts, and sworn testimony. These events are the basis for what sailors whispered about for decades, real sea monsters witnessed by the United States Navy. What follows is taken directly from Lieutenant Commander Sloan's own words as he presented the file to a closed-door panel. It begins with his first entry, the Pacific Screamer. I did not set out to become a collector of monsters. My job was pattern analysis, nothing more. But over the years, the patterns themselves began to whisper. A sonar ping here. A diver's last words there. A hull scar photographed and then buried in an appendix. Alone, each incident was strange. Together, they were something else entirely. Tonight, I'm going to tell you what we have seen. The first time I heard it was 1971 off the coast of Guam. I was attached to a destroyer escort on routine passage. The sea was flat glass, no storm, no traffic. Then it came, low at first, then climbing, a scream from below that shook the soles of our boots. It was not the engine. It was not a whale. Every man on deck froze. One sailor clapped his hands to his ears and screamed back, as if trying to drown it out. Another simply collapsed. The hull thrummed like a struck bell for hours after the sound ceased, as if whatever had made it was still circling. We logged nothing on sonar. The equipment registered a void, as if the ocean itself had clenched around the source. Years later, reviewing classified Cold War submarine patrols, I found the second echo, the Arctic Serpent. A fast attack boat, running silent under polar ice, picked up a long black shape shadowing it. Day 1, it was a blip. Day 2, it matched course and speed. Day 3, it drifted closer. Through the periscope, one crewman whispered that he saw eyes in the dark, unblinking, set too far apart to belong to any known creature. For 72 hours, the sub could not shake it. No aggression. No sound. Only the sense of being hunted under a ceiling of ice. On the 4th day, it was gone. 3 men resigned from undersea duty that month. The official report called it sensor anomaly. The third incident came to me as a grainy freeze frame from a deep-sea drone near the Mariana Trench. The silent devourer. We dropped the vehicle for routine bathymetric scans. 300 feet down, normal. 600 feet, normal. At 920 feet, the feed hiccuped, flickered, and in that instant filled the screen with teeth. Massive, uneven, bone-white teeth. An officer at my side whispered, "That's not a fish." Then, static. The drone vanished. The last recorded image showed a dark interior space moving as though something were alive inside it. We never sent another drone into that section of trench. By the late 1990s, I had begun noticing a new signature we called the shadow at 900 meters. During a night patrol aboard a carrier, one of our sonar operators picked up a mass larger than any whale, perfectly still at 900 meters depth. A diver joked it might be a sunken island until the shape began to rise, slow and deliberate. Panic spread across the deck. Depth charges were armed. Just before it broke the surface, the contact disappeared. No splash, no wake. It was simply not there anymore. The operator submitted his resignation that night. I thought the Gulf Growler was folklore until I heard the original tapes. Late 1980s, Gulf of Mexico. A Navy research vessel at anchor recorded a deep rumbling like thunder trapped underwater. The hull shook. Lights flickered. An officer thought it was an earthquake until the sound came again, louder, closer. The frequency did not match any known geological or biological source. One sailor removed his headphones and whispered, "That wasn't sound. That was breathing." The captain ordered emergency liftoff and cleared the area. 3 crew members swore never to speak of it again. The Alaskan Leviathan came from a coastal recon flight near Kodiak Island. Overcast skies, cold wind, nothing unusual until the sea below rippled in a single massive swell as though something surfaced just under the plane. The co-pilot shouted. Radar showed nothing, no ship, no storm, no animal. But when satellite data was reviewed later, a dark shape the length of a football field appeared in 2 frames and then was gone. Locals have only one word for it, Leviathan. They say it sleeps until someone wakes it. Each of these incidents sits alone in a separate folder, a curiosity, a rumor. Yet I know because I have touched these papers that they form a chain. Something in the deep watches us, and sometimes it answers back. I have not yet told you about the Subsur, or the thing beneath Bermuda, or the crimson eye glowing under a destroyer's hull in the Philippine Sea, or the final anomaly, what my colleagues and I call the Deep One. Those files remain sealed, but I have seen enough to know that the ocean we chart on our maps is not the ocean we sail. Even now, as I speak these words to the panel, I feel the same vibration I felt on that destroyer escort so many years ago. A hum just at the edge of hearing, like breath held beneath miles of water. Perhaps it is memory. Perhaps it is something else. I once believed the ocean could not surprise me. That belief ended with the Subsur. 1963, the USS Thresher, 129 men on board. The official record says mechanical failure, but in a restricted sonar log marked subsurface contact, unidentified, a single sequence was captured before the signal went silent. It showed something vast moving toward the submarine, followed by the unmistakable sound of metal under crushing pressure. Not explosion, not implosion, but compression, like a shell closing. The wreckage was recovered months later. One fragment of hull plating bore gouges curved and symmetrical, edges fused by friction heat, as though something alive had bitten through it. An admiral reviewed that recording and wrote only 3 words in the margin. This was not pressure. When I requested the original tape, it was gone. Logged out? No trace. That's when I realized some parts of the Navy knew, and some preferred to forget. The next file was harder to read, 1987, the Bermuda operations. Officially, it was an underwater cable survey. 1 diver down, 1 on tether. The diver never resurfaced. His partner came up gasping, incoherent, saying the man behind him had shouted that something blinked in the dark. The transmission from his suit ended with 7 words. It sees me. Oh God. It's opening its mouth. Then static. No body recovered. No footage. No report. I found the transcript only because an intern misfiled it under psychological stress. The thing beneath Bermuda became a myth whispered in dive schools. But it's no myth to me. I saw the raw frequency tape. For 1.5 seconds before the feed cuts out, there's movement. Something layered. Scales catching faint light, then gone. When you slow it down, it almost looks like the reflection of an eye closing. The crimson eye came next. A destroyer in the Philippine Sea on midnight patrol. Calm seas. Nothing on radar. Then a watchman shouted from port side. There's an eye in the water. The deck crew ran to see it. A single red orb the size of a tire, suspended just beneath the surface, unblinking. The compass began to spin. The radar blinked off. On. Off again. Men fell to their knees praying. And then the eye descended, slow and smooth, until the water went black again. The official report blamed magnetic interference. I have held the compass from that ship in my hands. It still will not align north. I used to think these were separate events, but patterns began to align when we received the Puerto Rico Trench data. What would become the final entry in this collection? The Deep One. We were running a thermal scan, tracking undersea vents. What the sonar picked up defied scale. A heat signature the size of a city, alive, moving. We tracked it for 14 minutes, steady, rhythmic, like breath. Then it dove, straight down beyond our range, beyond every instrument's limit. Before the feed cut out, one operator swore he saw the mass pivot, like it turned toward us. The final line of the ship's log reads, "We are not alone in the sea. The panel asked me then, "Do you believe in monsters, Commander?" I told them, "No, I believe in biology. I believe in pressure, time, and evolution. The ocean is older than language. What we call monsters are perhaps simply survivors of another age, older than our understanding." But in the quiet hours, when I am alone with these tapes, I hear it again, that same deep hum from Guam, the one that shook the destroyer's hull. And I remember the sonar technician who whispered before he retired, "Chief, it isn't the deep we're hearing. It's what's under it." He might have been right, because there's one more detail the reports never mention. After every recorded encounter, from the screamer to the deep one, sonar arrays within 100 miles recorded residual echoes. They did not fade naturally. They stopped all at once, as though something enormous had gone still. Sleeping, maybe, or listening. When I filed my final report, I requested that these cases be classified under Unresolved Phenomena, Maritime Biological. The request came back denied. Instead, they stamped it. Closed. Inconclusive. That was nearly 20 years ago. And yet, sometimes, when the storms roll in over the Pacific and the barometer dips, I feel the same vibration under my feet that I felt on the Franklin Bell. The same rhythm, the same breath. There are nights I wonder if all 10 encounters were not separate creatures at all, but 10 glimpses of the same thing. The same being seen from different oceans, through different eyes. Something vast enough to circle the globe without surfacing. Something patient enough to wait for us to listen. I did not plan to reopen these memories. They were meant to stay sealed under black ink and brass locks. But the ocean has a way of finding its voice again. 3 months after I delivered my final report, I was called back to Pearl Harbor for a classified debrief. They said it was routine. It was not. The panel was smaller this time. 2 men in naval dress, 1 civilian in gray. They played the recordings back through narrow-band speakers. The sound filled the room like fog. Low, constant, resonant. You do not hear it so much as feel it pressing against your ribs. The civilian leaned forward and asked a single question. If this is real, why no proof? I told him proof in the deep does not behave like proof on land. Down there, light bends. Sound folds in on itself. Cameras fail. Sonar lies. And memory fractures under pressure. Proof is the wrong language for the abyss. He smiled and said, "Then we will call it mythology." I was dismissed within the week. My clearance downgraded. My files reassigned. When I tried to request access again through proper channels, I received the same response every time. No record found. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. Months later, one of the men from the Arctic Patrol contacted me. He was dying, lung cancer, he said, and wanted to unburden himself. We met in a diner outside Anchorage. He looked hollowed out, like something had been eating him from the inside long before the illness. He said the thing under the ice had followed them home. He heard it in his house sometimes, in the radiator pipes, in the snow melt drains. A low hum, steady and patient. It wants us to remember, he told me. That's why it lets us live. He died 3 days later. His family said he drowned in his own bathtub. The official report listed cardiac failure. I started hearing it again soon after, in the stillness of my quarters, in the deep groan of ships at harbor. Once, while sitting at my desk, every metal object on the table began to tremble. The pens, the compass, even the brass nameplate. The hum was faint, but it was there. The same tone that carried through the hull near Guam all those years ago. I ran the audio frequency through an analyzer. It measured at 19 hertz. That's below human hearing range. But it resonates with the bones of the skull, a frequency that induces fear, nausea, and visions. Scientists call it the ghost tone. Sailors call it the voice of the deep. So maybe that is the answer. Maybe these monsters are not creatures but frequencies, living harmonics from another age. Bodies made of sound, not flesh. Maybe the ocean remembers in vibration what it once birthed, in scale and sinew. Or maybe it is worse. There was one fragment I never logged officially. It came from the last thermal scan of the deep one. Right before the feed cut out, a second pattern appeared within the first, a smaller signal nested inside the larger one. Rhythmic, deliberate, almost communicative. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses. It took me a week to realize what I was hearing. Morse code. The oldest language we still use beneath the sea. The pattern translated simply to 3 words. We see you. I have no evidence that message was real, but it matched no system we operate, no satellite, no vessel. It came from the same coordinate where the heat signature had vanished. When I showed the recording to a colleague, he stared at the screen for a long time before asking, "What if it isn't watching us? What if it's remembering us?" That question has haunted me ever since. I left the Navy a year later. They called it voluntary retirement. I call it survival. The night I packed my office, I found an envelope slipped under the door. No name, no insignia. Inside was a single photograph, grainy, infrared, showing a shape beneath a destroyer's hull. Not massive this time, smaller, but unmistakably the same curvature, the same glow. And along the bottom edge of the print, someone had typed 4 words on an old military label strip. It is still below. I burned that photo, but sometimes, in my sleep, I see the outline of that shape through the flames. If I could say one thing to those still patrolling the deep, it would be this. Do not mistake silence for safety. The ocean keeps its secrets, but it never forgets them. And to the civilians who read this report and laugh, who demand proof and video and clean sonar traces, I will tell you what I told the panel that day. Proof is for daylight. The ocean does not deal in daylight. I am left with echoes, and echoes are enough, because I know this much to be true. Something is alive down there, older than our ships, older than our gods. It has seen our wars, our waste, our arrogance. It does not need to surface to know us. It listens. It waits. And sometimes, when it chooses, it speaks. The last time I heard the hum was 2 nights ago. I live far from any coast now, but as I sat awake in the dark, the windows rattled in perfect rhythm. 3 slow pulses, pause. 3 slow pulses, pause. 3 slow pulses. The ocean was calling from beneath the ground, and I understood at last what it was saying. It wasn't warning us. It was remembering. File 054 is now sealed under the Special Maritime Anomalies designation. Lieutenant Commander Sloan vanished 2 years after this report, his property found abandoned. No signs of struggle, no sign of departure, only a filled bathtub, the water still trembling when investigators arrived. Maybe the deep took him back, or maybe he was right. Maybe it only remembers. Tell me, if the sea truly remembers everything that has ever entered it, what part of us is it waiting to return?